Hello, New York Giants fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. All right, we are approaching the Giants' second preseason game, this one against the Houston Texans on Saturday afternoon. And here to help me talk about Giants-Texans, do a little crossover edition of the show is Cecil Shorts of the Believe in Texans podcast. Cecil, thank you so much for hopping on.
All right, no problem, Ed. Appreciate the invite, man. It should be fun.
All good. And in case folks don't know, Cecil is a former NFL player. How many years were you in the league, Cecil?
Just 6
years. Six years. And hey, let me start with an NFL player sort of preseason question for you.
Okay.
The Giants are going to Houston, which is the longest travel for a preseason game that I can remember the Giants having had to make in a number of years.
Yep.
How much do players hate, having to travel that far, for a preseason game?
Depends on the city. Depends on the city. Like if you're a veteran, right? Say you're like a Brian Burns and you might not get that much playing time, you probably love it because you can enjoy the little time that you have in the city of Houston, right? Especially if maybe you're from there, or you know people there, or you may have some connects there. Maybe it's shopping, maybe it's food, maybe it's a lady friend, whatever the case may be. So it depends on the city. Just being honest with you from a player perspective.
Oh, that's why I ask these inside questions. You got to get the scoop. I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about, man, I got to get on a plane and go all the way to Texas from New Jersey to play for a game I'm probably not even going to be in. I didn't think about the fun side.
Hey, the fun side is a free trip. You get to support your guys. You get nice and they go out there and warm up. The guys are not playing, right? They go warm up and then come on the sideline, put their little t-shirt on, and then sit and just kind of hang out. So it's not a bad thing all the way, right? Yes, it's a long travel, maybe a little bit, but I mean, you're in the NFL. You're being taken care of 24/7, right? So it ain't that bad.
There you go. So, yes, you warned me about that.
I warned you. I'm so sorry about this.
It's all good.
Announcements.
It's all good. Like I said, I sit here. I told you before we started, I sit here in my office at home, and
I'm embarrassed.
Lord only knows when I'm going to hear yapping dogs and who knows what. So it's all good. Anyway, let me ask you, this will be for the Giants' second preseason game. And with the 3 preseason games, this one seems to have started to become, for most teams, it's become the sort of showcase game. It's becoming the game where starters get the most playing time. And I don't know how much time Giants starters are going to get because Brian Daboll won't tell us anything. But which is typical. Mm-hmm. He comes from that New England tree, and he's a nice guy, but he doesn't. But he's a nice guy, and I love Dabes. But Dabes will say a lot of words without saying a whole lot. But anyway, the thing I wanted to ask you is, how much are you expecting Texans starters to play on Saturday?
Good question. So D'Amico came out and said the starters will play. So I'm expecting at least a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half, depending how those particular drives go. Like you may see CJ for just one quarter if they have 2 or 3 really good drives and he's connecting with Stephon and Nico and Tank and they're running the ball well. But if they're on the struggling side, say they go out there and don't protect CJ well, or they don't look cohesive on offense, I would expect them to play just a tad bit longer than normal, but no more than a quarter than a half. I'm interested to see which offensive line for the Texans will play. Will you have a Laramie Tunsil? Will you have, probably not Titus Howard, will you have a Shaq Mason at guard? I think that'd be a great test to go up against a Thibodeau and a Brian Burns if they play for the Giants, right? But I do expect the starters for the Texans to play at least a quarter. And depending on how that goes, it may go a little bit longer. And also depending on the health of everything. Everything goes, fine. Nobody's injured or anything. I expect in at least a quarter and a half.
Yeah, I don't know how much Giants starters are going to play. Last year, I think Daniel Jones and the starting offense played one series the entire preseason.
Oh, wow.
They played one series. They drove down the field. They scored a touchdown. They never played again. And I thought that was, as much as guys hate the preseason, I thought that was a mistake. I'd like to see them get a few drives and get some contact and all that.
See, Ed, I'm more old school. I especially back when there was 4 preseason games.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Texans this year, technically they had 4 preseason games because the Hall of Fame game, right?
Right.
I truly think in a 3 preseason game season, the first one, a couple drives, the second one, at least a quarter, if not close to a half, right? I just feel like you need that reps. You need those reps. You need those there's never a time in practice where you can duplicate live reps. You just can't. And going against a different opponent will give you different looks, give you different opportunity for one-on-one matchups, whether it's interior line versus offensive line, whether it's linebackers and running backs. It's just a different look, and you need that look going into the season. So I'm kind of with you. I think the more reps, not too many reps, but the more the better when it comes to preseason rather than less.
How do you feel about, teams seem to be replacing a lot of these preseason games with the joint practices. Now, the Giants and the Texans did not hold any joint practices. Giants did that with the Lions. It turned into a 2-day boxing match. And they're holding a joint practice with the Jets next week. How do you feel about the benefit of the joint practices?
They're fun. They're a good time. As a player, they're a good time because you're going against the same guys over and over and over. So it's good to get a different look, a different feel. After you go against somebody's from, April when it's OTAs and it's the same guys, they know all your moves, all their moves, makes it difficult. So now you get to try something different against another opponent that doesn't know you quite as well. So there is perks to it, but it's still not live game reps. You can never duplicate that, even though I do think the joint practices are good. When you get in the game under the lights, the game is different than practice. So I still think you need some type of reps in the game, even though I do love the joint practices.
Daniel Jones stuck his nose in the middle of a fight there against the Lions. How do you think D'Amico would react to C.J. Stroud doing that?
He'll probably be very livid. He would be extremely upset. Like, what are you thinking about? A quarterback, when you see a fight, should literally walk the other way. He can yell and scream, but you walk the complete other way, especially a guy like C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, that was I had to laugh because we asked Daboll about that the next day, and he said all the right words, like, I don't like fights and Daniel should stay out of those things, but he said them all with a smile on his face, like which and the smile didn't match the words. So it was interesting. I have to ask you, have you studied Malik Neighbors very much? Have you looked at Malik Neighbors a whole lot?
I have, especially at LSU.
What do you think of Malik Neighbors, and what do you think of the kind of player he can be?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he has the ability, and there's something about those LSU receivers, right? Golly, it's just like year after year after year. They're doing something there that these guys are ready right away. And Malik has the ability, the game-breaking ability, to be very special in the NFL early on. I don't care who the quarterback is. He is the type of guy that I think can be. Remember the impact that Odell had his rookie year, his first couple of years when he was healthy. I think he has that type of potential right away. There's not a route he can't run. When he catches the ball, it's good luck in stopping him. He has that dog mentality, that dog attitude, as you saw. Stop punching people. Please don't punch nobody else. Besides that, he is special, man. He can go up and make the tough catch. He can run by you. He is a guy that's, to me, you could argue he was the best receiver in the draft this year. I know Marvin Harrison was up there and went number 3 overall, but you could have argued that Malik was right with Marvin. And some guys had him above Marvin, right? But he is a guy that's going to be special for years to come. So I'm excited to see him. Hopefully, I'm not sure he'll play on Saturday. Hopefully he does. I know that I was reading there's an outside chance he may play. But man, I think he has a bright future, and he can be a guy that's going to be a game breaker, an explosive play waiting to happen for the New York Giants.
I think in those joint practices, I think he caught 16 out of the 17 passes that were thrown to him against the Lions.
He's incredible.
Of course,
tested catches. He can literally do it all. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's how much does a guy like that help the other receivers around him? Not just the quarterback. I mean, we know he's got to help the quarterback, but how much does he help the receivers around him?
Well, number one, it opens up. So if Malik goes out there and plays well, say the first 3 or 4 games, now the defensive coordinator on the opposing team is going to be like, hey, we got to double this guy or focus completely on this guy. Now the number 2, number 3, number 4 receivers, the tight ends, now they get more likely one-on-one matchups, right? So now they can find ways to, hey, all I got to do is beat my man now. Even if it's his own coverage, I beat my man now because therefore focused on Malik there, right? And Malik is he's a type of receiver, no matter what the defense is, he's going to get his, right? But now you open up doors for Slayton and Waddell to really have one-on-one matchups against the 2 and the 3rd corner, and they can get those, they can create separation and open this opportunity for the quarterback to throw in the ball. So it opens up for the whole entire offense.
You know, we're at that time of year, and I want to ask you about the Texans roster a little bit. We're at that time of year where we're getting closer and closer to cut down day. I think it's the 27th when teams have to set their 53s. Mm-hmm. And we know that teams, when they do the joint practices or when they play against each other in the preseason, they use those games as scouting opportunities. Oh, yeah. You know, the Texans were a playoff team a year ago. Oh, yeah. They should have a better roster than the Giants overall at this point in time. You know, and the Giants will be looking for help here and there in a few spots as the season starts. I'm just curious where the Texans are heavy on the roster. What positions do you think where they might be letting go of some guys who are NFL caliber players?
You know, I think the receiver room stands out. When you say that, you have a big 3 in no particular order, but probably Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell, who are your top 3 receivers. But you also have some veterans and some young guys that have proven in the NFL as well. And most likely they're going to keep 5 or 6 receivers, but you got a guy like Robert Woods, who is very consistent. Is he the same LA Rams Robert Woods of the Super Bowl team? No, but he still can get open, make plays. He will be a quarterback's best friend because he'll be in the right spot at the right time. When the ball comes his way, he'll catch the ball. Actually, a very good blocker as well. You have young guys like John Mechie, who has tons of potential. I think is a 2nd-round pick out of Alabama a few years ago, battled cancer, came back, and he has shown a ton of potential in training camp. He is a guy that's on the roster bubble that can make plays and probably draw some teams' interest as well. Then you got a guy like Noah Brown last year, kind of a journeyman receiver, but he went in his filling roles last year. He had one game of 150 yards, another game of 130 yards, a couple other 100-yard games last year. Really made a big impact when his name was called, and that's the depth to your room that any NFL team could use and need. And then you got other guys like Xavier Hutchinson and Ben Skronik that can play special teams, that can make plays on the offense side of the ball. They're younger, they're huge guys, more of the bigger stature. So that room in particular, they are very heavy on. It's going to be interesting how many guys they keep, and they're going to have to let some good players walk.
Anything on the defensive side of the ball?
The DB room, oh my gosh, it's 17 guys in that DB room, like 7 safeties and 10 corners, right? And I'm not sure the exact number that teams usually keep or the number that the Texans usually keep. But they got some former 1st-round picks and C.J. Henderson and Jeff Okudah that pop up, right? You have some journeyman guys like Mike Ford, who's had a really good preseason. You got some other guys in that room that have really made an impact. It's going to be hard to dwindle down how many you keep. You keep 8, you keep 9, you keep more corners, you keep more safeties. And always, surprise cuts everywhere. You never know who's going to be let go. You got big names like Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie at the safeties, but you just drafted a safety out of USC, Kellen Bullock, in the 3rd round, who's showing some really bright spots in training camp and preseason. So can something happen there? And then cornerback, the Stingley, of course, will be the guy, right? Stingley and Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia. So can they find depth in that area? So there's 17 DBs there. I'm assuming they only keep 8 or 9, and then there'll be a boatload of DBs that will be cut. So they'll have some depth there, some not depth issues, but some available guys for sure.
The Giants will take all the leftovers. They'll take them all.
It's some good players, man, for sure.
Oh, the Giants will take them all. Hey, it's a different world these days for the Houston Texans. Making the playoffs last year, there's expectations for this team. How different is that just to handle? How different is that, being around a Texans team that has expectations?
Not too long ago, it was a Deshaun Watson saga, right? Not too long ago, we had Davis Mills at quarterback, and people were trying to figure out, okay, is he the guy or not? And they learned quickly, okay, he's not the guy. Not too long ago, but there were no expectations at all for the Houston Texans for even thinking about playoffs, right? Coming into last year, there weren't expectations for playoffs. It was a rebuilding type year. And all of a sudden, D'Amico, CJ, Will Anderson, they lived up past expectations and were able to, build a culture and really surprise some people. Well, this year is not the case. This is probably the most anticipated season in Houston Texans history. It's probably the most exciting offseason in Houston Texans history, right? They've only been around since 2002, but still, you got new jerseys. You brought in huge names on the defensive side and offensive side of the ball. You have a franchise quarterback who people believe can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for years to come. You are all in, not just the playoffs, but Super Bowl. That's why those guys decided to sign here, because number one, you have a heck of a head coach, but number two, probably bigger. I have to say 1A head coach, 1B CJ Stroud. And when you have a guy on a rookie deal that you believe can be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, you have to go after the big names and go after that Super Bowl. So the expectations are extremely high. The standards are extremely high. Fans are thinking Super Bowl, and I don't think that's outlandish. I think that's realistic. Will the AFC run through Kansas City? Absolutely. They are the king until you knock them off. That's just how it goes, right? But the expectations here are crazy. They're legit. And on paper, they're one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, that has to be a lot of fun. It has to be exciting. The Giants are not there at this point, but maybe, but I always tell people, it's been a lot of down years for the Giants recently, but I always tell them that, look, you've got 4 Super Bowl trophies hanging in the building. So, a lot of fan bases would trade places.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing I've got for you. Have you seen the recent pictures of Daniel Jones?
I haven't.
You haven't seen the beard pictures of Daniel Jones?
I need to look it up real quick. I haven't. Daniel Jones beard, huh?
Daniel Jones beard, because that seems to be the big question these days that he keeps getting. He's grown this little scraggly beard that Kay Adams loves to fawn over. And and the big question is whether he's going to keep the beard or not.
I see.
So I got to ask you, are you team beard or are you team no beard?
So I see a picture of him with no beard, and I'm looking at the recent picture with him with the beard. I'm team beard. I think he looks great. I think he looks older, looks mature. I think this is a different year for him, right? Maybe he'll bring back the 2022 Daniel Jones.
Team beard. All right. We're putting Cecil down as team beard. All right. That it is really amazing how that has become the question around the Giants is, are you team beard or no team beard?
That's funny, man. That's a good
anyway. Hey, Cecil, I appreciate it. And hopefully everybody comes through Saturday healthy and there's no big season-altering injuries. That's the one thing we always hate about these preseason games.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Appreciate the time. And Giants fans, thank you, as always, for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.